Yo, 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 welcome to the Living for a Living podcast. I'm your host, Joey Bradley, and today's guest I'm very excited about. We go way back, somebody I look up to big time and respect immensely. Probably one of the most underrated Washington Hoopers that I know of, at least. And now is head coach of the Bellevue High School women's hoop team, along with the director of basketball at Eastside Basketball Club. Affecting the game, changing, in my mind, making everybody take a step up in terms of coaching at the high school and collegiate level. Got my boy Nick Crossan.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate you being here. You know, Nick and I go way back. Can you remember? I was just thinking about this to start. Do you remember our first?
Oh yeah.
Like us interacting, like I want to. What's your story of it? Because I've always it's always funny to hear the origin story of everybody's relationship.
So I believe we were in about 7th grade our summer. We were playing baseball. And I think it was Maltby, out in Maltby, if I remember right.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I think it was, and we were. God, I just was after a baseball game, and sure enough, you and your dad come up to me and were like, "Hey, you want to play football?" And I was like, sure. Never played it in my life, but ever since then, we've been boys ever since, and it's been pretty cool to see what we got going on.
Yeah, to see the kind of progression through the years. That's how I remember it too. I don't remember the exact specifics. I just remember my dad being like, "Hey, you think Crossan wants to play football with us?" And I was like, yeah, maybe. And I think we were like friends talking on like MySpace at the time too. You know, like that was the
the top 8.
Yeah, the top 8. Yeah, exactly. And so I just remember. Then I think you played football with us that 8th grade year. I think we had to use a legal address for that to work.
We did, but nobody cared.
No, they let it rock. Yeah, and then it's just kind of funny now to see. Shoot, that's 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah, and man, it's been a blessing to watch us both grow together. It's been pretty cool. I know you mentioned some things about myself, but I mean, I look up to you a lot. I do,
bro.
There's a lot of things that you do that I watch. I know this is gonna blow up. I do, and I'm just what you do with your life. Empowers me, and I'm just blessed to be here. And I'm blessed to have you. Not only as my friend, but as a mentor. I mean that. So, I'm excited. I'm really excited to get going here. We share some fun times and some fun stories. So.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that big time. It's like I said, I was kind of thinking about this as I was thinking about doing this together, and we've had very different life paths. But then when we get together, it's always super fun because we share the same core beliefs or understand, at least in terms of the youth and giving back and leaving a legacy and things like that aren't necessarily focused around the dollar sign or that type of nature. And so it's like I said, it's cool that we can be different in so many ways, but then so similar in other ways. And then but kind of going back to the childhood and everything, I gotta tell one story, I guess, of us.
I think I might know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I was kind of thinking, and I'm gonna ask for one of your stories afterwards, just because, how would you describe yourself as the 6th grade, 7th, the middle school, because that's when our relationship started. How would you describe yourself as looking back as an adolescent?
Yeah, I'd say a little arrogant, a little cocky, kind of like my shit don't stink type of kid. Thought I knew everything, had no idea what I was talking about. But boy, could I really think to myself man, I really know what I'm doing out there. But yeah, I mean, pretty simple. Pretty dumb overall. Just a crazy kid that just had dreams and had no direction to do it, but I don't know.
But did it anyway. And so I guess my one story that just sticks out in my head always in Nick Crossan was after we played football, and then we played football together 8th grade year. Then baseball came up, and like I think like middle of the year, our center fielder got hurt. And here my dad comes again, hey, ask Crossan if he wants to play baseball with us now. You know, and now we're just picking you out for everything we do. And Nick used to play center field, and if a guy hit a single up the middle, I guess I got two stories. A guy hits a single up the middle, easy. Nick would, on purpose, miss the ball so it would go by him. And then the kid would try and go to second on a double. And Nick would run, grab the ball, and throw the dude out at second to get him. And like, that happened multiple times. And I still just like remember like thinking like I played shortstop and so the ball would get hit up the middle like, okay, he's about to do it. Okay, he's about to do it. And we got guys. And then my other one, I guess, is it's burned into my memory of he's on third base, leading off. They try and pick him off. He dives back to third. Dives back, hands on the base, and the third baseman's just kind of standing there like looking at him like you kind of do, you know, not tagging him, but just looking. And Nick's looking up at him and just lift his hand off the base. And so the guy kind of freaks out to tag him and just, ha, gotcha. And I felt like that like encapsulated like that kind of arrogant, like, but competitor, you know, like competitor to the max. And, but also like having a good time.
For sure.
You know, like, and those, that like once, I meant to only tell that one, but then as soon as the center field, that just like popped into my mind too. And yeah, so do you have like a favorite kind of memory? And it doesn't need to be together.
No, I'm going to share what we have together. Because man, there's a lot because you got my brain ringing now. So one of the vivid ones I remember is when we had our football practice, and we would practice at the middle school, and I'm coming to practice one day, and you know, I look up to like, back then I looked up to guys like Chad Johnson, and you know, those guys that Ray probably Lewis. Nobody really looked, I mean, Ray Lewis for sure, people looked up to, but the guys that were like, you know, they're kind of yahoos, like, you know, that was my type of dude, like I related with those type of guys. And so one day we're going to practice, and I don't know what time of the month it was or what month it was, but I show up to practice in a Superman costume.
That's right.
so I show up to practice and everyone's like looking at me like, what in the world is this dude doing? And Joey's over here just dying laughing. And your dad is looking at me like, wow, Joey, why did we bring this guy? Like, what in the world? So that's just like one of the few ones. The next one that reminds me of is when we used to, you know, it's kind of crazy how life works out because, you know, the program we used to look up to was Bellevue, right?
Right,
you know,
for sure.
We used to watch their games all the time.
Yeah.
We used to try to mimic some of the stuff they did.
Yeah.
And back then, remember one of the things was we would, you know, rally before the game. Then we would go storm off and we would go around on not the flagpole, but the field goal. And we would rip the pad off. It didn't matter if we were home or away. And sure enough, I think we got in trouble one game. I think we got a penalty for doing it. And your dad didn't care because your dad was just that type of dude, man. He was my favorite coach. But I remember that vividly. He would rally up, and then we would just literally, me and you would run, and the whole team would be around us, and we would just tear this pad off, stomp on it, and then we would just start doing this. I think both of us would start doing the Ray Lewis dance.
Yeah, you had the Ray Lewis dance.
We would, but you're right. I mean, that's kind of something that I was a goofball, but I was competitive as all get out. But trying to find that balance of having fun and competing.
Yeah, so. for sure. And like, I mean, everyone knows that, you know, you went to Skyline High School and everything, but I think, you know, not a lot of people know kind of the story that you had before that growing up, you know, and I think that played a part in, you know, everything for you growing up. And I mean, can you kind of shed a little light on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of go way back and just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, born in Seattle, Pacific Northwest, raised. grew up, my childhood, you know, my mom lived in Kent.
Yeah.
We grew up in Kent. I got an older sister and 2 older brothers. We have different dads. So we kind of, my background's a little different, you know, than coming into this area.
For sure.
It was eye-opening for me. It was eye-opening for our family. My father and my mother split. So my mom was, you know, raising all of us by herself. Really, you know, I'm very blessed because, you know, you hear about the horrible split-ups and the breakups, but my parents, you know, I call my mom the ultimate OG because
hell yeah, she is.
She's the only woman, man, woman, don't care, that can have a Christmas and a Thanksgiving and have all of her exes there and nobody's fighting or nothing.
Dang.
So my mother's, you know, she's my hero.
Yeah.
But it's funny, it's just, you know, ironic. I'm like, I don't know how in the world you do that, because if I was in that situation, I wouldn't be that comfortable. So there's just something special about her that she does.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I still don't know what it is. But anyways, sorry, I get sidetracked.
No, man, that's all good.
So anyway, so we came over here when I was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
We came over here. My mom had met someone who lived over here. We moved in.
Okay.
And he is like a second father to me. His name is Jim, and he helped kind of raised me in a different way.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful for it. So, you know, I got to see both sides with my childhood. You know, I got to come over here, you know, live with my mom, but on the weekends, you know, I would go, you know, up on Kenley Hill and get to see kind of what the rough part was.
Play Puddle King.
Yeah, we would play Puddle King. Puddle King was a good game for us. If it's raining out, watch out.
Yeah.
You're going to see about 3 people and 1 king standing on top of that puddle. So, so we would, I was, you know, at the time you don't really realize it when you're a kid.
For sure.
You don't really understand what you're going through. You just live in life. You don't really, you know, there's so many life lessons that I've learned from seeing both sides of it. You know, I've seen where, you know, here you could be out night shooting all night, you know, and playing basketball and doing whatever, which is a blessing.
Yeah.
But then on the other end, there'll be other weekends where I would be at my dad's, and the moment it was dark, I would be running, sprinting home.
Yeah.
And there'd be times where you get caught in situations you don't want to be caught in, and you know, you find ways to get out of it.
Yeah.
But it helped me kind of learn how to interact with everybody.
Right.
And that's kind of, it's weird because, you know, we'll get into the more stuff, but it's like, it's really molded me kind of to help me connect with people.
For sure.
And understand, you know, everyone comes from different all aspects of life.
Yeah.
And every day, you know, is an opportunity for all of us to get better and to learn from each other. And that's something that I take credit for my parents and the way I was raised. And, you know, they were never type of people that would try to hide anything from me.
Right.
You know, so grew up there, came all the way here, you know, went to Sunny Hills from 4th grade all the way through. You know, my mom had split up with Jim around 5th or 6th grade.
Okay.
We ended up living in this summer walk in Klahani.
Okay.
Still used his address so I could still go to Sunny Hills. And I think I was the only kid. Do you remember monkey bikes?
Monkey bikes?
They were the little tiny bikes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were like a hot thing when we were kids.
Yeah.
You know, they were,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so
they were like little
tiny,
teeny,
right? They're not made for like, you know, art at the time that were our age, but for some reason we all used to ride them.
Yeah.
So I would ride my bike to school with my monkey bike. I would go from Klahani and I would go all the way to Sunny Hills and ride my monkey bike to school. And here I am, this, you know, fifth grade kid. I'm just pedaling, just going and pedaling. But you know, it all circles back.
Yeah.
You know, those times where, you know, my mom wasn't, you know, she trusted me and she raised me where, like, if you're gonna get to school, I got to get up at 4 a.m. because I got to get to work.
Yeah.
So you need to get yourself up. You need to get breakfast. You need to get yourself to school. And I'm really thankful for it because I've kind of seen things way ahead of time. You know, it made me grow up probably faster than, you know, normal.
For sure.
and I was probably, again, very immature, but at the same time, there were some things that I could take with me
Yeah.
that would help me,
Right.
and just as an example as that, just as simple as like getting up, being on my own, and going into riding my monkey bike to school and back, and that right there was like, it was kind of made me a little bit who I am today.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I kind of remember about you as a kid, or growing up, was that it felt almost like you had a level up on everybody in terms of mentality, in a way.
Yeah.
In terms of competitiveness, in terms of, in middle high school, it was like you were bigger, stronger, faster than people, and just like better skilled as well. But it also, like, I don't know, just remember like being back then, like there was just like a next level, like
Right.
mentally almost, that
Yeah.
I felt. Did you feel like you had that, like at the time, like looking back now, did you feel like you were kind of above kids in a way, like?
I think maybe a little bit, like maybe, I wouldn't really say, I think you're right from like maybe a competitive standpoint.
Yeah.
I think that was it. But mentally, no, because sports was really, for me, was an outlet. That's kind of how that was my way of, any type of anger. I'm the type of person, and I still am to this day, really, is the type of person that I'm not going to react right away.
Yeah.
I'm more like, I think a lot before I react. But for some reason, sports was something where I would react like right away,
For
no
sure.
matter what. So it was kind of a way where I was figuring out who I was. Like, how do I bottle? I used to bottle things in.
For sure.
And then when I would play sports, it was like outrage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe it showed up with me playing, but also it would show up with my attitude and
Yeah.
and even towards my teammates, and there'd be, I wasn't the greatest teammate at times.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, I was not very good, and I was not very good at expressing in a positive way to my teammates how to react to something. I always used to think maybe people would think just like me. And it's like, okay, well, like you and I, we have, like you said, we have a lot of similarities, but we're different people, and that's the beauty of that I love about coaching. It's like, all right, how do I dig into you and figure out who you really are, so I can become a better. It helps me become a better person.
For sure.
Which it makes both of us become better people at the end of the day, which is really what life to me is about.
Yeah.
So yes, in ways, but at the same time, it got the best of me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And then, you mentioned that, struggling sometimes with other teammates and coach, it was kind of like, you were kind of known as like arrogant,
Yep.
kind of, cocky, but could back it up like to the max. But were you aware of like that perception at the time? Like, did when you're 12 years old or whatever and killing people and everything, but also kind of knowing in a way like people are talking shit, were you aware of that at a young age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was kind of more blind to it, though.
Yeah.
I think I was more like, very insecure.
Yeah.
Like more like, they're just making it up, or like, they're hating on me.
Okay, yeah.
So that was my mindset, and it was wrong. Like,
But in a way, it pushed you
Right.
more to,
Right, but if I
Gotcha.
had a more of an open mindset that I do today, where, okay, how can I become better at this? Instead of just like being blind to it and just kind of moving on with my life and just not really trying to change.
For sure,
And there's pros and cons to it, right? You see, I'm not really I'm not that type of, I'm not a professional athlete or anything like that, but you see a lot of athletes that can do it, and you see a lot of athletes that learn as they get older.
Totally.
Which is the cool part, that's what I love. Those are my favorite athletes that kind of come from, I wouldn't say, tough times, sure, but more of like them as a person. You see them just grow.
For sure,
And those are like my favorite type of people to be around.
Definitely.
Because you can relate, to a little bit. You know, you and I, we talk about like, we've both been around a lot of professional athletes. You're a professional athlete yourself, and it's cool to be able to relate to a little bit to a professional athlete. You know, you're like, man, this is cool. Like, I can conversate with you, and like when you were kids, all you dreamed of was like being that professional athlete and kind of understanding, who they are, what they do, and it's just
because we build them up to be these like superhuman people, because athletically, guys can do some superhuman shit.
Yep.
But that's the one thing too. I'm kind of hopes of with this podcast and talking to people from all walks of life, but especially kind of getting and talking with some professional athlete guys that have been at the pinnacle. That like, hey, all the thoughts that we're both having all the time, they're not immune to that type of stuff either. They're just people,
right.
That's the biggest thing. It's like, dude, like they're all just guys, and especially like now, I was working with some NFL combine guys who, are just fresh out of college, 21 to 24 years old. And like, I'm only 29 now, but then you still realize like, dang, there's a big maturity gap just in that.
Absolutely.
4 or 5 years and then thinking like these guys are put into this position where everything that they do is public knowledge.
For sure.
And then they have to deal with all the scrutiny, and then on top of it, making a lot of money, which is a positive, but then you don't know how to react to it sometimes.
Exactly.
Shit, that can be a recipe for disaster,
For sure.
But like going back to you is like, is what we're, when you started playing with us football, I remember a lot of people told my dad like, oh, he's a problem or this and that, because sometimes you wouldn't get along with coaches, and I promise we're going to flip this around and I have a reason for getting all these things. But like what was your biggest problem with coaching when you were young? Like what was because on football with us, like there was never an issue.
Right.
And I have an idea why it was that way, but like for you, what would you think the kind of, what would coaches do to, that made you be a problem at times?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a coach's fault in ways. The difference between your dad was there was a connection. Like he actually, and I'm not saying that none of my other coaches cared about me, because that's not even the close to the truth. Like now that I'm a coach, I'm like, well, I respect everybody who's ever coached me, because they never gave up on me, and they always would give me a chance.
Yeah. And
that is like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to do, but what your dad would bring to the table was just different. Like it might be because just the way that maybe he just approached me. It could be the way that he would communicate with me. He was very honest, which I respected like crazy. That's just kind of the way that we were raised. That honesty was the way we're going to do it, and whether you like it or not, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
And that's what I respected the most, was your dad was straight up, and he would do it in a positive way. And if he ever did it in a way that would be, quote unquote negative, it was a way that would motivate me.
Right.
And I would be like, man, what do you need? Like, what do you want me to do? I'll go, you want me to block this dude? I'll hit the hell out of him. What is it you want? Like, and so that was the coolest part for me, and that was eye-opening. And, for your family, it is like a huge reason, like, that's helped me today as a coach broaden my horizons of how to see someone, and how to see an athlete, because it's just different, and having that connection with your coach is huge.
For sure.
It's huge. And I mean, it's almost kind of, it's hard to describe, because you're just in the moment, and the fact that, the love was always there. I never questioned that. And when you don't question love, it's kind of the pillars of our programs that I do. It's love, honesty, and respect, those type of things. And when you don't question those, you're going to do whatever you want.
For sure. And then you kind of answered it in a way, but how would Nick Crossan, the coach Nick 12-year-old, 13-year-old
Yeah.
Nick Cross, you know,
Yeah.
because now that's been a very like unique thing in my
Yeah.
mind to think of like, you know, full circle. Because like I said in the intro, like I think you're like changing the game,
Yeah.
you know, off the court,
Right.
on the court as well. But like the things that you're implementing with kids, like
Right.
dealing with life,
Yeah.
is kind of next level. But and so how would you coach yourself, you know, as grown up Nick looking at young Nick now?
Yeah. I mean, it's really it starts with this, like a sit
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
And it starts with, you know, not only a sit down with, you know, if it's 12-year-old Nick, it's a sit down with the 12-year-old Nick and, you know, my mom.
Right.
And like, that's the first step. I think the first thing you got to do is connect. And it starts with the parent, I believe, because that's their kid.
Yeah.
And they know their kid better than anybody else. And they're going to be able to tell me like, hey, you know, my son is extremely competitive, but you know what? He's been through some stuff, and here's what he's been through, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And here's how he handles this situation. If he's the type of kid that if you yell at him, he's going to do better.
Yeah.
If he's the type of kid that you're just kind of beat around the bush, you kind of just tell him what he wants to hear, he's going to kind of call your bluff, and he's going to keep going. And then he's going to start acting up, kind of crazy. You know what I mean? He's going to start saying stuff that you're not going to like, and it's not going to be a good situation.
Yeah.
So I think it's that direct connection. You know,
Yeah.
it's just that one-on-one. I don't think, you know, a lot of coaches don't understand that one-on-one time, how valuable it is.
Okay. Yeah.
And understanding that, you know, I care about you more than anybody else, and the fact that I don't care if you can put the ball in the hole. Like I don't care about that. You know, or I don't care if you can catch a football, or I don't care if you can, you know, catch a fly ball.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of that. I care about you as a person.
Yeah.
And how can we, from this triangle, from the parent, the kid, to the coach, how can we get better?
Yeah.
You know, how can we improve your son or your daughter? How can we do that together and create this type of, you know, this love?
Yeah.
Where we're all in this. We're not going to see everything at the same thing. I mean, we're not going to see eye to eye on everything.
Right.
But you're going to respect me. I'm going to respect you to a level to where we're going to do this.
Yeah, and you said, I mean, that I've noticed is, you know, not beating around the bush and just being straight up and honest, especially nowadays. I think kids are getting way smarter.
Yeah.
And even we knew when you were bullshitting us to a degree, but now so it's even more apparent that, you know, I think like you said is by just being upfront.
Yeah.
First and foremost, and then is the key.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just interesting. I'd like to kind of pick your brain now at you know the coach level.
Yeah.
You know how you kind of circle it back because
Sure.
it's a cool circle.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, from a coaching standpoint, I mean, you know, I've been around a lot of. I've been really blessed.
Yeah.
Because you know, you kind of go back to your childhood, and you kind of, you know, my biggest thing I tell our athletes is that, you know, relationships is everything.
For sure.
You know,
For sure.
You and I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for a relationship.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And there's so many examples of relationships that will help you in life, and that's the biggest thing I try to, you know, preach.
Yeah.
Is that relationship piece, you know. And you know, whether it's EBC or it's Bellevue, it's the same thing. And we, you know, I have mentors. His name is Sam Moscatel, who I look up to like tremendously.
Okay.
He actually used to coach at his squad back in the day.
Okay.
He was the boys coach, and then he was under Ed Peppel. He played for Ed Peppel. Their family's incredible. Like they run Thomasville. Here they got 13 coins, him and his brother, and they're just like, sure that all that's great, but they're the just type of people like you would never know it if you ever saw them on the street. Like
Gotcha.
you never would know it. They're just incredibly gifted people that like, you know, I was fortunate to coach his daughter, and then it kind of just hit off from there. You know what I mean? And we built a relationship, and he was the type of guy that was reminded me of your dad that would just kind of put your arm around you, and right from there, he just was trying to help me, you know, and he's a big credit why I'm here today and why I've got a head coaching job. It's a lot to do with him.
Gotcha.
At the time, and then we go into at Bellevue. What we do is what I stole from. His name's Buzz Williams, somebody I look up to a lot. I met him once in my life, and I'll hopefully meet him again in a couple weeks where I go down there. But he's the type of person I look up to because he's impacting people without even knowing him. Right. You know what I mean? Okay. And that's the type of power he has. Yeah. That's the type of power or I wouldn't say power. Power is probably the wrong word, but more that like influence on people. That's what I would like to grow up to be. Where he's a huge reason why I talk about life lessons. We do them at EBC and we do them at Bellevue. We call them LAB, and it stands for Life After Basketball. Yep. And it's a once a week thing. And we get into stuff that people may think is weird, but I think it's what you need. We'll talk about budgeting. Yeah. We'll talk about life stuff. We'll talk about credit scores. We'll talk about the 3 dysfunctions of your brain. And there's the reason why I love it. I love it more than I love coaching basketball. I'll be honest. That's the best part to me because you really get to see how much growth is in a kid from whether they're a freshman or they're a 3rd grader. Yeah. Like the time they see them grow is the most like incredible gift anyone could ever give you. I don't care about, and I mean this I'm sincere about it. Like I don't care about winning. I don't care about losing. I really don't. I just want to see, where can we take your son or your daughter? Like what level of a person mentally can we take them? Because if we can take them way above who they are as a kid, boy, when they become an adult, they're going to be pretty scary. For sure.
Man, that's awesome. That's like we had lunch, I don't know, last time I was back, and we were talking about some of those things that you're teaching these kids, and just even bringing it to awareness is important in my mind because, I'm a kind of a not anti-education, so current education. I just think that we could do so many better things as a nation and the education system, and the things that you're going through and talking about are things I'd be like, hey, we should be learning this at school. Right. And so it resonated big time with me because they're still getting it. Yeah. And it is an extra, and it's not in your job title or anything like that, but like to basically take it upon yourself. For sure. That's like what has really stuck with me, throughout everything, because I know they're doing good on the court. Yeah. I know the motion's running right, running the different sets, zone, although you're a big man defense guy, right? Yeah. And, I know their switch, I know all that's on point. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who can do that, but it's that extra stuff that's so important that I just think so important. Yeah, for sure. And just kind of staying in the coach, I want to talk about the playing days also, because that's not to be overlooked at all. But to kind of stay on the coaching thing is, what was your first gig? Like, what was the first coaching job? What got you into it?
So my first coaching job, I got was it 2013, I believe. I was the head assistant for Issaquah High School boys. Okay. Under Jason Griffith, who's the head coach now at Mount Sinai. He's unbelievable. Like he knows how to build a program. Gotcha. He had Issaquah rolling. Yeah. I think the 2 years I was there, we went to state both years. We got 4th the first year, 6th the second year. We won Kinko for the first time ever in school history. So there's a different, that's the beautiful thing about, when we talk about life and people, I just learned so many things from him, and then just being with him. And then I went to Redmond High School after that for a year, under Todd Rubin, who was actually my coach when I was at Northwest. Okay. He was the assistant coach. And he actually coached with us at EBC, and we had a relationship, and he's another guy that's like, he doesn't get enough credit for how good of a coach he is.
Gotcha.
He's unbelievable. He talk about like actually building a program. He's doing it at Redmond, and he's got. I mean, they get like so many kids to turn out. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's just credit to him as a coach because they all want to play for him.
Yeah.
So we went from there, and then right from there, I got turned down like 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I went for like Washington. I mean, I was like 23 years old when I went for it, and going back, I was like, well, I get why you would say no. So I got turned down like 3 or 4 times, and again, it just kind of goes back to who you were as a child and this raising and just the grittiness of, using that as motivation. Like, all right, I'm going to do something different, and what can I bring to the table that nobody's doing,
right?
And the whole life thing and that type of thing is, I found it. It was because I went to a coaching clinic in California and I saw Buzz Williams, and he started. It's one of the funniest, funny, but things that I've ever seen. Like, his thing was like ball screen defense for 50 minutes. And he like walks out in the court and he's like, if any of you think I'm going to talk about ball screen defense for 50 minutes, you got me like messed up. Like, there's no way I'm going to sit here and talk about ball. This will take me 5 minutes. Then we can talk. And then so he just the way he approached it, and the way he was like, screw that. Like, this isn't about basketball. And then he's just hit like I talked about the 3 dysfunction of your brain. Yeah, and he just went right into it.
Okay.
And the moment he did that, I was like, ooh, like, nobody's really doing that. You know what I mean? And nobody's thinking that way. As a high school coach, even college coaches, he'll change it. You know what I mean? And I'm behind him. Like, I believe, the greatest, whether it's a player or a coach, you steal stuff from people.
For sure.
I didn't invent anything that I do. I didn't. I'm not some kind of like God here who invented this stuff. And so it's just, that was my motivation, was like, not really like we talked about, not the coaching piece. It's like, what can I bring to the table that when I present myself in an interview, they're like, man, like, there's no way we need this. Like, this is perfect for our, our program, or our, and it's just kind of ironic how it's at Bellevue, like, it's the school that we talked about that we all like look up to, but we just hate it, like, just hate it, and
but it was all out of jealousy from complete,
that was it,
for sure.
That's all it was, and that's what I look at our Bellevue girls program, like, that's what I want it to be. I want it to go back to that. We need to be like them, you know what I mean? And we want to be like them, and it will create that jealousy and, and everything like that, but it's just kind of ironic that I end up there. That's my, first opportunity that someone has given me, and I can't believe, like, I'm extremely thankful for it. Because, I'm young, like 28, I don't have any head coaching experience.
True.
And like we talked about, it all wraps around just relationships. And that's what I echo to our girls. And, I tell them one of our things that we will do this year with our relationship piece is, people kind of, as we grow up on the east side, it's like a knock. People will think of it's a knock.
For
like,
sure, yeah.
You're rich, you got this, you get anything you want, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. So be it. Some people raise kids differently, whatever. But I look at it as like a blessing, because I was able to see both sides of it. It's like, no, this is a blessing. Like, this is not a knock. It's a blessing to have, as a kid, to be in this situation, And what I tell our athletes at either at EBC or if it's Bellevue, it's your parents or your friend's parent are extremely powerful people. Like, they're CEOs or they own their own business, and they have, it's a $5-10 million business, and so what? Like, they deserve whatever the heck they get, you know what I mean? But the biggest thing is what our athletes are going to start doing is they're going to sit down with them, you know what I mean? And they're going to ask them, kind of like how you and I are talking right now, like, how did you get here? Like, what did you do? You know what I mean? Like, what types of, lessons did you learn from your life? And so I think it just, like we said, it's just growing the mind. Like, how can we like just make them become better people? And make them like, because we all got. We remember in high school, you get caught up in such stupid stuff.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, like he's got brand new Nikes and I
don't.
Or like just stupid stuff, or
And nowadays, man, it's even worse than. I mean, I can only imagine we were like right on the brink. I said we were in MySpace days.
Yeah.
Where the kind of social comparison was just starting, but now, I mean, it's at a, and I think we all at times fall victim to it.
Mm-hmm.
But shit, now, I mean, I'm glad that I'm not in high school now.
Yeah.
Knowing, knowing that everything can be out there.
Absolutely.
And we did some dumb stuff, and luckily that got covered up for the most part.
Right.
But nowadays there is no like covering it up.
No.
At all.
Mm-mm.
And so, like, I mean, do you notice, and it's hard to judge completely because you weren't adult when we were in high school, but like, what do you see differences now with like your student athletes compared to, just, I mean, we were in high school 10 years ago.
Right.
What differences do you see, if any, like between the players now versus students now versus when we were in school?
Yeah, the biggest difference for me is how to hold like a conversation.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that's just kind of one of the things that sticks out to me.
Yeah.
Your mom and all of us were just talking about like, how people like will like just put their head down and not even say hi to you. You know what I mean? And it's not their fault. Like, it's just kind of the how society is these days. And it's, and how people are kind of, they're just glued to their phones. And, it's another thing we talk about in our life lessons, like the pros and cons of social media. Like, people, I also feel that if you're not accepting to the change, you're going to get lost.
100%.
You know what I mean? If you're just kind of like, I'm old school, I'm doing it this way, this is what I'm doing, you're going to get lost. And because kids are kids, and if it takes, like, for me to understand what Instagram is, then I'm going to do it.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Or if it takes me to understand what Twitter is, and how to use it, and how to connect with a kid, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Because that's how I'm going to be able to connect with them these days.
For sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Are you on TikTok? Is that
No.
Is that the newest one you got to deal with or at all?
I haven't seen any, so I've seen some, but I haven't seen any of our kids.
Okay, so that's not on
not yet.
Not yet.
I can't. I'm telling you, we're probably a month away. Whenever high school starts, I'll be TikToking.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. You've said you started with coaching or assisting with the guys, and now you're coaching girls.
Mm-hmm.
What, again, kind of compare, contrast in the differences of you notice coaching guys versus coaching girls?
Yeah. Well, at first I think coaching is coaching.
Yeah.
Some people are like, you need to, it's like what kids, I mean, people preach to kids these days. I think it's kind of crazy. They're like, you need to focus on one thing. Like, coaching is coaching to me. The biggest difference that I see is more because, I do have 2 daughters.
Right.
So it kind of made me switch my mind. It's because whatever we do, whether it's coaching or what, it's going to help me become a better parent.
Yeah.
And so I do have a son now, so it's kind of like, okay, but it's like, it helped me because I think, and I'm not saying boys don't need help growing up, I just think there's so much pressure on girls these days where, you see it, you see suicides and you see kids killing themselves and you see kids, doing things to hurt themselves or they're doing drugs because of, little Billy, thinks they're not cute, or you see girls trying to look like Kim Kardashian and you see all these things that, to me, that's what is like, all right, how, now, I don't want my daughter to go down that route.
Right.
You know what I mean? But more importantly, I don't want to see other females at that, really dangerous age go down that route. And that's kind of what empowered me to do girls basketball, is that I want to help them, like we talk about, is become better people and give them nuggets. I'm not going to like be some kind of life-changing person, but I can still give you some nuggets that might pull you out of a situation that you're going to go down a dark path.
Right. Yeah. Or even stop you from going down that hallway. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's really what empowered me, to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, there's not a girls basketball coach that does what we do.
Right.
Whether it's EBC or Bellevue, like nobody talks about life stuff to girls.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, man, I can be different. Like I could set something or do something that's so different because I don't do things to be different, to be like, oh yeah, I'm the man, like I did this.
Yeah.
I want people to follow it. Like
For
I
sure.
want everyone to adopt it. Like whatever we can do as a, whether it's a community, whether it's a nation, whether it's a state, whatever it is, what can we do to help kids?
Yeah.
Because the more we do that together, the more we're going to see these kids, whether it's their success rate go up higher.
Yeah.
And you see it naturally, to be honest. I mean, kids these days are incredibly smart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
You see
wow.
stuff, it's like, I don't know, like, I don't even know how they're in like calculus and they're in 7th grade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the biggest reason why.
Yeah.
That's what I see the difference.
Yeah. So do you think now, you think you enjoy coaching women more than men, or is it even hard to?
It's too hard to say.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they both have their pros and cons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say I necessarily like enjoy it, but you see the change in women kind of quicker
Right.
than men.
Right.
Girls, for whatever reason, their acceptance to change is quicker.
Okay.
And they want to get better.
Yeah.
And they want, not saying boys don't, they could be wrong, but I just think of myself as a kid, like I was stuck in my way,
Right.
whether, you get that coach that pulls you aside and gets you going, but your mind isn't as open. Like that's what I kind of notice with women, that their minds are open.
Gotcha.
And I want them to be powerful. Like, it's changing. The world's changing. Like you see more women that are CEOs, you see
Mm-hmm.
more women that are, and that's what I want. That's what I want to see. And not only for my own daughters, but for the kids that that I coach.
Yeah.
I want to see them become CEOs, or if they want to play the WNBA, good.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can get them there, but that's just kind of why I do it.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. Yeah. I don't really want to get too much into negatives. I'd like to stay positive, but at the same time, what do you see like right now in the coaching climate with basketball, specific AAU? Under some scrutiny kind of right now for going year round. NBA is changing some rules. Like, I'm sure there's some bad shit going on amongst that kind of community, and like what do you see as kind of like a main problem that could be, and with a solution kind of set up with it possibly?
I think kind of more just like either it's a coach or a program, like what they value.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people kind of just do it for the money.
Yeah.
When it comes to AAU.
Gotcha.
Or, or even if it's training, like, I see a lot of people that just kind of, you see on social media, some of these guys that do stuff, for me, I know basketball, like for football, or no matter what it is, you kind of see things and you're kind of like, what in the world? Like,
and they're charging $80 an hour for it. Yeah.
Right. And you're like, well, so I think that's one of the biggest issues is people are not, they're like, they see the social media, they see this, and they sell themselves as this, and then people buy into it. And then what ends up happening is they end up spending a lot of money, and then there's kind of really not that much a result behind it.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of the biggest thing I've seen with the AAU world is that people are just kind of trying to get you for your money.
Right. Right.
And trying to, make a big bang off a kid.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I hate.
Yeah.
When you see a kid being, I don't want to say maybe used, or a family being used that, that's put thousands of dollars into their kid or into this coach or trainer that they trust.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, that coach is like, just doing whatever they want, and they're not really connecting with the kid.
Yeah.
So that's where I think is the biggest difference.
Okay. Yeah. For
Or
sure.
concern, I should say.
And then, I mean, you know, with EBC, you were saying off camera that, I mean, you guys are maxed out at this point. And so, I mean, in my mind, then I'm like, dang, like now at maxed out, you guys already have the mission of all this off-field stuff. But now that you're maxed out in terms of bodies, that, you know, there's no more real selling or recruiting per se, you know, at a major level, that you can even more now refine the vision that you have going, you know. And so what, I mean, we've talked a lot about it already, but with EBC, you know, got the shirt rocking, and gave me the shirt. What's the philosophy at EBC, you know, that's different than other AAU programs that we're just talking about?
For us, I think it's more just about, like we kind of hit on a lot, is just the overall kid, you know. With our program, you're not, you know, you're going to get the coaching, you're going to get, you know, all the bells and whistles with, you know, training, and, you know, and you're going to get your 2 practices a week. You know, we do a team training, and then they get unlimited skills training as a group, as much as they want throughout the course of the week. It's pretty similar to what a lot of people do in ways, you know.
I'm very, you know, ignorant.
And there's a lot of good programs out there, but I just think we are different because we do have our own facility. You know, a lot of other programs don't. We also, the big thing I think is the off-court thing. You know, and what we started this year is that we do parent meetings, you know, and we do the one-on-one with the parents. And we do 4, you know, our season goes, this first one's 6 months long. So we do 4 of those with those parents, and that's different, you know, not, you know, like we talk about people trying to just take your money and go with it. You know, we have that, we want that connection. Like, you're paying X amount of dollars, we want it to be the best experience possible. Like, that's our mission, that's our goal. We're not here to make money. We're here to just, you're paying for a service, you know, that's just beyond, like, you couldn't describe it, you know, and that's what we want our program to be. You know, my wife and I just took this over about 1.5 years ago, and we're really thankful for it. Like, my father-in-law and mother-in-law built this thing off of just pure, like, you know, they had lost their jobs in 2009 during that time. My brother-in-law, who plays at Seattle U, I want to call him brother-in-law, he's my brother. They didn't have a gym at the time. There was no space for him to go anywhere in 5th grade, and they ended up, as a family, just kind of piled our money together and went for it. And we built, you know, EBC together, and it's been, you know, tremendous. You know, now we have a learning center in our program now. They're actually in our facility. So it's something that we're just kind of find little nuances to be different. We've been really blessed to have, his name is Sam Ramsden. I'm sure Kaysen knows him. I'm sure a lot of the Seahawks know him, but he's the director of health and performance for the Seattle Seahawks. Cool. I coach his son in 4th grade. So he's, trying to think, he was in Green Bay with Mike Holmgren. He came over with Mike Holmgren, and then Pete Carroll ended up hiring him, obviously, and I've had the opportunity to sit down with him like 3 or 4 times, and, you know, we talk about relationships, you know, and that's someone, like, you talk about when trying to find, you know, he's a Tim Anson, like, he's a guru. He's that, like, just knows the body in and out better than anybody, like. So we had talked about sleep, hydration, and nutrition, and that's something we brought to our program. You know, we have a little, about a page, maybe a front and back at the most, that talks about the type of sleep, you know, the type of hydration, the type of water they should be consuming, you know, before, 2 hours before a game, during a game. You know, we're trying to make it, we want this place to be where our overall vision is like, you come to EBC, you get everything under one roof. Like, you get everything, you know, and that's what we're building on, and it's exciting because you see, you know, when you see your vision and it slowly starts to come into play, it's exciting, and, you know, and that's what, you know, my wife and I are really excited about is that piece of it, you know, just our vision is like, we're like, wow, this is blossoming, you know, and it's all God, you know, it's nothing to do, it's just be who you are, you know what I mean? Kind of like, just be who you are, you know, and this is what you believe in, do it, you know, and it's pretty cool. It's really cool.
For sure. No, man, I'm like, like I've said, I'm excited for it. I've kind of gotten to see it progress and talk to you throughout the last few years. What's been like one of the biggest hiccups or like challenges, like in terms of getting it rolling that you've ran into?
The biggest challenge is the balance between like my own family and my job. You know, my wife and I,
and especially since she's involved too, like
we work,
exactly.
we work like 15-hour days, you know, and you know we are really blessed to have, you know, my 2 daughters are going to school. That's only 3 times a week, and then you know it's like, okay, well these are my kids. Like I know I'm helping all these other people, but it's like, all right, you got to find the balance of your own family and your job, you know. So I don't want to be that type of dad or, you know, that family that's like, when we, you know, your kid growing up, they're just like, yeah, I remember my dad is kind of always working.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's like a horror story to me. I don't want that at all. You know?
Sure.
And what we've created at EBC, and it's different, I think, you know, I'm biased, of course, but is we have a family atmosphere. Like, my family is no different than any other family we have in our program, and it's like an adoptive family. Like my kids hang out with other little kids that they don't know. You know what I mean? And they're an EBC family, and then all of a sudden they get to know each other. And you know, there's a little girl that's same age as my daughter. She's 4. She's like a hooper. You know, like she's already dribbling 2 basketballs. This little girl, you know, and I'm looking at it like, wow, like kind of like the competitive side, like the sicko side. You know, you see that sick parent, you know what I'm talking about? Like that. I'm like, dude, calm down. Like, your time will come. Like, I'm like, Charlotte, that girl's doing 2 basketballs and you're over here like playing with your fingers and playing with a scooter. Like, come on, like, get up, let's go. Like, but so it's just, that piece of it is the hardest piece. I wouldn't say that much is a challenge, you know, like, you know, the challenge is obviously just, you know, you just run a business. So like, you know, I just think that my wife is the one she's the god. Like she knows all this stuff in and out. She's incredible at what she does. She's an incredible leader. And so it's like, it's kind of just natural. Like things just flow. You know what I mean? Things that just go. Of course, you're going to have your ups and downs, but they're not like huge. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're little bumps, but they're not like these big, like, graves you're digging. You know, so but we've been blessed. Like, we've got, you know, it's just handed to us. You know, and it's like, you know, it's not like we had to, you know, come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars to start it. You know? I mean, we did as a family, but like, it's just kind of it's cool. It's really cool to see kind of the growth, you know, and everything. So
and that can put almost some more pressure on you too. Like even though you didn't necessarily have to get it from the ground floor up, like it was at a point where it's like, don't mess it up now, you know, and so that can be tough. I mean, you know, I think a problem or an issue going on now that I'm sure you're more aware of than me is dealing with certain parents in, you know, the AAU high school kind of basketball world. And, you know, you hear horror stories all the time. But, like, what's something that, like, you wish as a coach and you know, running a program like this that, like, maybe just a parent could have a little bit better perspective on, you know?
I just think, you know, it's not rocket science. You know, people try to make things more complicated than they need to be. You know, I just, like, the players play, the coaches coach. You know, the spectators are the spectators, the scoreboard people are the scoreboard people, you know, the person taking the tickets are the person taking the tickets. Like, it's that simple, you know, but people want to, you know, be that, you know, parent, grandparent, it doesn't matter. They want to, like, feel like they need their voice to be heard, you know, and like we kind of just, you know, how we talked about already, it's just having that, when you have that sit down with a parent and their kid, it's just kind of like, what are you gonna? Well, now as a parent, you're kind of like, well, what more can I say? Like, this is what he expects. This is what their program expects. This is where they're going. This is where they want to be. And now, as a parent, you're kind of like, well, what am I going to complain about?
True.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, my son's not playing. You're like, well, we talked about that. You know, and then it's like, Okay,
And we can
like-
talk about it again
I'll
at our
talk-
next meeting. Yeah,
Exactly. We can talk about it all you want. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that's just kind of simplify it. You know?
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
just simple. You know,
Just-
and some people make it more difficult than it needs to be. So
For sure. That's my kind of biggest thing. I think, eventually I'm going to get into the coaching world. And the young, it's a blessing and a curse, because I've worked with some kid, like I was working with a sophomore high school quarterback this off season, and his parents were great, and like made my job even easier.
Right.
But then I can imagine that there's the flip side to it. But like you said, just having an understanding that like everyone's got a job to do.
Right.
That I think can go a long way.
For sure. Absolutely.
And we're talking coaching and everything right now. I want to get back into playing days a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk you up. I already talked you up a little bit, and still, like, to this day, 4-year varsity starter.
Yeah.
1,000-point club. Skyline's got your jersey retired.
Yeah.
McDonald's All-American, right?
Dominant. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like, I feel like I got to get all that in there, because we're talking. We kind of jumped from childhood to coaching, and just kind of going back to playing. Like when you were in the high school age, and it's ultra competitive the way it is. Like how do you look back on your career?
Yeah. I
like from a, and I know it got cut short a little bit with injury, but like as an adult now, being a few years removed, like how do you see your career?
I thought it was, successful.
Okay.
I definitely think it was successful, but I was born with a situation I can't control.
Yeah.
I was born with hip dysplasia, and my whole life it was kind of like, I knew the wheels were going to fall off at some point. And so I just went until they were going to fall off.
Right.
So, I did play 4 years at Skyline. There was a lot of ups and downs through my high school career. There was a lot, sure I have, accolades and, still the all-time leading scorer there. But there's a lot of challenges that not because of anybody else, but myself.
Right.
That I went through because of either the actions or the choices I made. And because of that, that's what you go as you grow up. That's what I look at. Like, man, dude, if you'd have had your head on straight, you could have been like double.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you could have been, not only whatever points you scored, you could have maybe doubled it if your head was on right. You know what I'm saying? So. That stuff to me is cool. It's cool to do. I kind of go back there sometimes. They have a coach there now that I'll absolutely love. He's gonna build it.
Okay.
So I go back there and visit. Ain't nobody know who I am, but it's all I have to just kind of point at the board and just go, here, that's me. So that's
sick.
That's that. But so,
Sick.
it was cool. If you look back, and all the, struggles, it was worth it, because at the end of the day, it was rewarding.
Yeah.
You get some rewards, but I didn't really do it for that. I did it because I had a goal in mind. I'm huge on goal setting. I had a faith box that, I had when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school. And I wrote 5 things in that faith box. One of them was to become all-time leading scorer.
Okay.
One of them was to get married to my high school sweetheart. One of them was just become a happy person. And then one of them was become a happy family member.
Okay.
And then one of them was to get a scholarship.
Gotcha.
And all 5 of them came true. So it's something that, I always prayed upon, always knew my vision and knew what I wanted. And even though it was down the road, I knew it was going to come true.
Yeah.
So it was cool. My senior year was probably one of my funnest times. It was probably the worst when we can talk about it later, but the story of it behind, between getting kicked off the team, getting put back on the team,
right.
And then, I ended up, being the league's leading scorer. And it's funny because I had led the league in scoring, I had led the league in 3-point percentage, I had led the league in steals, I had led the league in multiple things, and this isn't the Kinko it is now. This is the Kinko when Garfield Frank, this
Exactly.
is the real Kinko. This is what Metro is now.
Yeah.
And then when you get that end of the year thing, and you get like honorable mention or something, it's you get pissed, but at the same time you get it,
Right.
because of what your choices are as a player. It's like, I had ran into one of the coaches that still coaches at Inglemore now, and he was like, yeah, you're the MVP of the league, like easily, but you can't, they're not going to reward that to you when you act a certain way. So it's interesting, it's kind of cool to look back on, but
Well, and what was the issue senior? I don't even.
So
I honestly kind of don't
my
remember.
senior year, we were in practice, and so I got into it with my coach. It's the reason why. It's the reason why, like I think Issaquah did it too. Yeah, they did do it. Now I think about it, Issaquah, like Washington, they would all bring their fan section would bring shoes. So here's why.
Okay.
I got into it with my coach. We had practice. For some reason, I wasn't in the starting thing, so I thought I was better than everybody. And me being who I was, I voiced it.
Yeah.
So I was like, kind of like, what the hell's going on? Why am I not with the starting crew?
Yeah.
So he jumped down my throat, blah, 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 blah. Kicked me out of practice. So I'm kind of walking, being arrogant, little dickhead, just like taking more time than I needed to, just to piss him off more. And I sit down. We just got team shoes. I think they were the Hyper Dunks at the time.
Okay.
Taking my shoes off, and he's still yelling at me. And so I'm taking my shoes off, and I tie them together. And so I tie them together, and in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, screw this dude. Like, I'm thinking, like what? So I pick him up and I throw him at him. Chucked him right at him.
I didn't even know this.
Chucked him right at him.
Oh my God.
And I walk out.
Mm-hmm.
I walk out of there. I get in the car. I drive actually to my girlfriend, who's my wife now. I drive to their house, and my father-in-law at the time, I told him what happened. And he's like, get your ass back there and apologize, like get back there. So I did. I went back there, apologized to the team. I mean, embarrassment, obviously, but, apologized to the team. And then, went home to my mom, and that was just not good. Mom was not happy. Then we had to go to the school. I had to have a meeting with the president, the athletic director, the principal, the coach, and I had to sign a contract that I wouldn't physically or verbally abuse the coach. So I get suspended 4 or 5 games, and then I play.
Okay.
So that's in a nutshell kind of what happened.
I knew something happened.
I'd
never heard the full story.
Yeah, it was kind of, every time we played at LDub, I remember playing at Issaquah, or, playing at home even, the opposing teams, half their section has shoes tied up and they got them around their shoulders, and it's a clown moment, but it was, that stuff kept me motivated.
Yeah, I was going to say, you love that stuff even more. I know, yeah.
Yeah.
And then is that kind of part of the reason you went the JUCO route too, or what was
I didn't have any grades.
Okay.
I had 0 grades. Like I said, I was highly recruited freshman, sophomore years, and then it dropped, went way off. Grades were bad, and obviously, attitude was bad. I was a freshman in high school, and you would think as a freshman you would be thankful that you're on varsity, you're starting, all this stuff, and I was like, no, I want more. What more can I do? And I was kind of, being a dick. I was probably, my coach had Coach Cheevers, and I love him. I talk to him to this day, and I love him. I respect him a lot. He used to have a taped box on the sideline, and that was my penalty box. And I was the only kid that would get in there. And I used to be in that penalty box just what in the fuck? What is this box going to do for me right now? You're just pissing me off more. So that was something that it just went on from there, And so that just made me lose a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, I lost a ton of opportunities, and I went the JUCO route. I was going to go to Western Washington out of high school, and then, you know, I didn't have grades even for that place.
Okay.
So they told me, hey, go to this JUCO. We'll come pick you up in a two years,
Yep, get your AA,
and then get that together, and then we'll see you. You know, so, but you know, life happened. I went there for a year. I went there with my wife went down there with me, and then actually to go, I'll jump all over the place. So
That's all right.
my wife and I we're obviously boyfriend and girlfriend. After our senior year, we were kind of, I wouldn't say a rough spot, but we were, you know, it was. I had left to California. She had stayed here for about 4 months, and it's the reason why we are married.
Okay.
It helped our relationship like crazy.
Gotcha.
It just helped us kind of see things from a different way. And she is the reason why, like, I am here.
Yeah.
She's the reason why. She's like everything. I can't like describe it enough. Like, she's helped me so much and has pulled me out of so many like dark places.
Gotcha.
Where it's just kind of shed a huge light on me.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, it looks like it's me, but it's not. It's my wife. Like, what you see coming out is like my wife. Like,
Gotcha.
she's taught me so much, you know. And so,
Beautiful, man.
anyway, so sorry I sidetracked. But
No.
that's kind of what happened, you know. Just went from there.
And then what was like your experience with JUCO? You know, I mean,
yeah.
obviously in the beginning kind of tough with
Yeah.
the relationship stuff, but
Yeah.
going more like basketball wise,
Yeah.
what was how do you look back at your,
I think, man, if
I always
every
love to
could-
hear other JUCO
If
guys.
every kid could experience JUCO, I think they become a better person.
Hell yeah.
You really get to see who you are.
For sure.
It is a grind.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have money,
Nope.
and like we were just talking about before, we were talking about eating Taco Bell, McDonald's. Like, that's your diet. Like,
For real.
and you
No
don't
trainers.
No trainers, zero. You don't have anything. You have like your coach who's getting paid nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
And you've got an assistant coach that's probably like a volunteer
Yep.
that sees you here and there, you know. So, but it's cool because my closest, like as far as like my teammates, like
Yeah.
those guys, like one of them was in my wedding. Like those dudes you bond with like in a different way.
Totally.
So that's.
Totally.
I think if every kid can experience that, it's like worth it. Like,
Yeah, that's.
I think people who have like, and we all were that way, like, oh, I'm Division One or nothing, like,
Yeah.
or you know, or not open to learning different avenues.
Yeah.
JUCO is like, it's a great avenue. I'm
For
telling
sure.
you, like, I think if you don't have the grades or if there's something going on wrong,
Yeah.
you can still get to wherever you want to go. You know what I mean? There's just a little hiccup in the road, whether it's your grades or your attitude, you can get better at all that.
Yeah.
You know, and you got, it's all about finding the right fit, you know, and I found a really good fit there, and so it's cool though. I like JUCO. So.
Yeah, I know. It's funny that the different people who experience it, and for the most part, like now playing football in Europe, a lot of the dudes who continue to play after college and that are playing in Europe are JUCO guys.
Right.
And I think it's like a special breed, you know, almost because like you had to love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
And that was like because like we said, no trainers, no support by any stretch. Oh my God, bro.
What happened?
I haven't been recording.
Oh.
I mean, I've been recording here, but I haven't been recording here.
Well, that's who's there, I guess.
Oh my God, bro. I feel so fucking stupid.
No, it's all good.
Oh.